Hello students. The subject matter of economics has been divided into different areas like microeconomics, macroeconomics, public finance, international trade, growth and development, environmental economics, and many other sub areas. But mostly microeconomics and macroeconomics are considered as the fundamental parts of economic theory. So here we are dealing with these two areas of economics. Micros in Greek means small, and microeconomics is a study of small economic units or also individual economic units. So what are these small economic units? These small economic units are individuals, firms, market forms, etc. So in microeconomics, we are studying about individual economic agents, firms, their behavior, how they determine their economic behavior and all these things. So in economics, generally we deal with prices, we deal with equilibriums, we deal with optimization, we deal with welfare and all these things. Okay, so in microeconomics, when we are referring to prices, we are referring to prices of commodities, we are referring to prices of factors of production. So these are all parts of study of individual economic units. And so when we are referring to prices, it may refer to the equilibrium prices in the market, or it may be also refer to the pricing behavior of a firm. It may be referring to the reaction of individual consumer towards a changes in price and all these things. Similarly, when we are referring to a firm or a market, we are referring to the equilibrium in the market, or when we are referring to in welfare, we are again pointing towards how an individual will try to optimize from a given situation and maximize his welfare. So microeconomics studies about individual economic units like firms and individual economic agents. Okay, and so consumer behavior is part of microeconomics. In this consumer behavior, we study about demand, then utility, the different types of utilities like cardinal utility, ordinal utility, and then also there are theories like revealed preference theory, and these all form part of microeconomics. Okay, then we deal with production. In production, we especially stress on the different production functions, then also on the cost factors, the cost of production, various types of cost like fixed and variable cost. Okay, these are all parts of the production side. Then we also refer to the distribution aspect of economics, in which we determine the equilibrium prices of different factors of production. Then we also refer to welfare theory, in which we discuss how an individual maximizes his welfare. Thus, according to K.E. Balding, the famous economist K.E. Balding, microeconomics is a study of individual firms, households, individual prices, wages, income, particular industries, and particular levels of output. Okay, and the second important part of economics, or second important theoretical part of economics, is macroeconomics. Okay, macroeconomics means economics of the whole. Macros in Greek means large, and therefore macroeconomics deals with large quantities. Okay, so it studies the economy as a whole. It does not study individual economic units in detail, but studies the aggregate behavior. It is also known as aggregate economics. Okay, so what are the important variables or areas that we cover in macroeconomics? In macroeconomics also we study about prices, about income, about distribution, etc. But the type of analysis is different from microeconomics. When we are referring to prices in macroeconomics, we refer to the general level of prices, inflation, then inflation, employment trade-off, unemployment trade-off, etc. And similarly, we also deals with the equilibrium, And when we are dealing with the equilibrium, it is the equilibrium of the whole economy. Okay, we have different models to analyze the equilibrium of the whole economy. And therefore macroeconomics is a study of the aggregates or the economy as a whole. So this is the differentiating factor between microeconomics and macroeconomics. According to K. Boulding, macroeconomics does not deal with the individual economic variables, but with aggregate of these variables, not with individual prices, but with general level of prices, not with individual income, but with the national income, not with individual output, but with national. The next topic that we have to explain or discuss is the different definitions of economics or wealth, welfare, scarcity, and growth concepts relating to economics. This is not strictly a microeconomic concepts relating to microeconomics, but with the it deals with the entire economic theory. Okay, so there are these four important concepts. One is wealth, second is welfare, third is scarcity, and fourth is growth. And these concepts are also quite closely related with the famous definitions given by different economists to economics. Okay, first we take the wealth concept of wealth. The wealth definition to economics has been given by Adam Smith. In fact, his seminal work, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations, itself refers that the study is about an inquiry into the wealth of nations, how nations acquire wealth and how they dispose it. Okay, so it is according to this, according to Adam Smith and generally to the entire classical economics is essentially a study of wealth. Okay, how people acquire it, how a nation becomes richer. According to Smith, political economy is solely concerned with how a nation accumulates riches. Okay, so this classical economics, in fact, was preceded by mercantilism, and mercantilism gave importance to accumulation of bullion. Though classical economics did not strictly adhere with this idea, it had borrowed some of these concepts relating to wealth from the mercantilist system. But this extra or over stress on the concept of wealth began to be viewed suspiciously by different persons. Especially the philosophers of the time criticized economics as a dismal science or a pig science, because it was mostly concerned with how people can acquire wealth. But according to some economists and some philosophers, and economics in fact is a part of philosophy. According to some economists or some philosophers, wealth is not the sole aim of individual life, but there are larger ideas or larger things with which individuals are concerned, and therefore economics began to be criticized. And at this time, a new branch of economics came, which was known as neoclassical economics. It was Alfred Marshall who is considered as the main economics relating to this neoclassical school. Okay, and A.C. Pigou is also one of the famous economists of neoclassical school. And this neoclassical school gave a new idea to economics, which we call as welfare. So they define economics in terms of a different aspect, which is welfare. So this was quite distinct from the earlier definition of economics given by classical economists, which stressed on wealth. And the second one was more acceptable to the general people as well as for economists. And therefore economics got a higher position among social sciences. And this welfare definition was given. According to Alfred Marshall, it is a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. It examines that part of individual and social action which is most closely connected with attainment and use of material requisites of well-being. So there are some points which Alfred Marshall stressed through this definition. First one, I said it was a study of mankind, as different from the classical definition which define economics as a study of wealth. So this was a clear demarcation or clear divergence from the classical idea. According to the neoclassical economists, economics was a study of mankind. Okay, how mankind used the material requisites. And the second part of that is stress was it is concerned with the ordinary business of life. So it is concerned with the life of individuals. And thirdly, it examines that part of individual and social action which is connected with the material requisites of well-being. So they exclude all the non-material requisites from economic calculations, and in fact it cannot be, those variables cannot be quantitatively dealt with. So this neoclassical definition simply stressed on the material requisites of well-being. So it was not just an accumulation of wealth that the neoclassical economics stressed, but how these material requisites, in fact wealth, can be used in mankind in his ordinary business of life to enhance his well-being. So this definition is known as wealth. Third important definition of economics is the scarcity definition, which was given by Lionel Robbins. According to Lionel Robbins, economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternate uses. Here also we have certain points that needs to be stressed. One, it is a science which studies human behavior. Okay, it is not about wealth. Again, it is not about wealth, but it is about human behavior, and it is also about how relationship between ends and scarce means. So it gives importance to certain ends of individuals. Ends means their targets or what they want to achieve. So what are the ends of human beings? Okay, what are the targets of human beings, what they want to achieve in their life? This is part of the study of economics. And also Lionel Robbins most importantly identifies the scarcity of resources. Okay, because resources are scarce, and also the alternate use of these scarce resources. Alternative use means that the resources does not have a single use, they can be put to different uses. So this was the important breakthrough in the scarcity definition of economics. It identified resources as scarce, our wants as unlimited, and the alternate use of resources which can be put to satisfy these unlimited wants. So here comes the importance of allocation of resources. How these scarce resources can be allocated between different wants. Individuals have unlimited number of wants. We cannot satisfy every one of their wants because it is unlimited in their nature, and we have only limited resources available with us. So with these limited resources we have to satisfy the unlimited wants of individuals, and therefore what we have to do, we have to use these scarce resources in a very rational, in a very economical way to satisfy the most important wants. So here comes the priority of wants also, which wants are more important and which wants are less. So here the society has to decide which wants are more important, which wants are to be satisfied in the current time period, and which ones can be postponed for the future. Okay, so from a science which was studying the acquirement of wealth to one which studies human welfare, and then to one which studies human behavior as a relationship between scarce resources and how these scarce resources can be put to alternate uses is the way economics developed over the 150 years from 1776 to 1932. You might be aware about the importance of the year 1776, which is considered to be the time when political economy or economics actually started as a science, as a social science, because it was in the year 1776 that Smith published his famous book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Cause of Wealth of Nations. And this neoclassical definition, or the Lionel Robbins definition of scarcity definition of economics, came in the 1930s, in fact in 1932. So all these 150 years the nature of economics changed drastically. Okay, so this scarcity definition is considered to be one of the most important ones because it identifies allocation as the problem. In fact, allocation is the basic problem in economics. Okay, what to be produced with the limited resources, and how these limited resources are to be, how these wants are to be satisfied, and which wants are to be satisfied. These questions began to be get addressed after the Robinson. According to Paul Samuelson, economics is a social science concerned chiefly with the way society chooses to employ its resources which alternate uses to produce commodities and services for the present and the future. This definition looks very similar to the scarcity definition because it again recognizes the scarcity of resources and the alternate uses to which these resources can be put. But a slight departure from the earlier definition was with regard to the production aspect. where commodities are produced and these commodities are consumed. So two aspects, production and consumption, have been added by Sam Wilson to the definition of economics. And this production aspect is concerned with the growth part that we are stressing here, the stressing here. And growth means that growth in the output, growth in the production of goods and services. So economics is essentially concerned with the production of goods and services for consumption. For consumption can be in the present or in the future. Okay, so this is the fourth and final important definition of